And so far, so good. The parameters that we measure are within the standards. Another important feature there for people visiting Wangari Maathai Institute is that through Dr. Mutune, actually the entire college has established a waste segregation system. And we have segregation bins at several points in the campus, which is very good for people to come and see what is possible with waste that we generate from our homes, waste that we generate from our institutions, and so on and so forth. And what happens after the waste is segregated, the committee chaired by Dr. Jane Mutune, who is chairing this webinar, they have found markets for the various products, whether it is plastic, whether it's metallic, paper, they have found markets. Then the idea is not so much, it's good to recover some money because that is money down the drain. The idea is not to make money, but the idea is to remove waste from the environment because those materials are either reused or recycled. That's it's very interesting especially to young people when they visit our campus. Now, we have several platforms, experiential learning platforms, which we want to establish. We are fairly new at that site, but we have several experiential learning platforms. One, we want to plant as much vegetation as possible to make our campus really truly green. Green in appearance, but also green in practice. So we are a green campus. And one of the platforms, learning platforms we are going to establish is on indigenous, herbs and medicinal plants. That is one, and we think that would be a very useful learning platform for virtually everybody who comes to the campus. The other one is on tropical forest conservation. Yeah, because the late Professor Wangari Maathai quite often told us that certain species of trees are not good for the environment because they do not permit, they don't allow undergrowth, which is very important within the hydrological cycle. And so we would like to establish one where people can come and learn. The other learning platform we intend to establish is one on conservation of wetlands, because we are bordered by Madara River on one side of the campus. And if you look at what has happened in Nairobi over the years, all the rivers going through the city of Nairobi biologically are virtually dead. And so we want to conserve a segment about 500, probably 800 meters of a riparian zone, and we design it in such a way that it will be a very good place for young people to come and learn. It will be a very good site for people working in urban areas, starting with Nairobi, who can come and see how best to manage riparian zones or wetlands. Then the other one that we are thinking of establishing is on food security. We have sloping land, and so we want to practice agriculture using conservation, good conservation methods, and growing different types of crops, including indigenous crops. And there also we shall have a soil profile, so that people can come there and see how you can conserve your soil, you can conserve your land, no soil erosion, no degradation, and how you can grow different types of crops. I think those are the main, the experiential learning platforms that we wish to establish for the purpose of imparting knowledge and skills and expertise to people, to Kenyans, and to anybody who comes to the Institute. Regarding what Dr. Mutune mentioned about the Earth Day 2020, we feel happy to be associated with the Earth Day Network, whose I think the headquarters is in the US, Washington. But we shall be having Matthew Lefler, talking about the bigger picture about Earth Day Network. And he is in charge of Africa, so I will not comment on those issues, much as I will not also comment on the Earth Day Network Kenya, because we have Nyawira, who will talk to us more about Earth Day Kenya. I think, Jane, I may have taken my 15 minutes, so
yes,
I can stop there. And thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Professor Mungai. We applaud you for the comprehensive talk on tertiary training of change agents. You've highlighted the WMI is anchored on good governance, wise use of resources, equitable distribution of resources, which is very critical. Another highlight is that WMI is multidisciplinary, and this is very important, particularly to the globe, because currently, like now, we are facing a global concern like the COVID-19, climate change, which affect all of us. And all these require collective action, common but differentiated action. That is what we got from you. Another important highlight is that WMI has collaborative approaches, whereby we partner with various stakeholders at both national and at international level, as well as at the community level. Importantly, as regards your talk, tertiary training of change agents, is that WMI is in the forefront in training transformative leaders who should actually be there to advocate for environmental protection, hands-on, not just talks, but hands-on on environmental protection. And WMI is already doing that because it's depicted in the green aspect of its building, lighting, water management, solid waste management, including experiential learning platform, and even the plans on food security. Let me take this opportunity now to invite Matthew. Matthew, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you.
Thank you. Let me invite you for you to give your 15-minute talk on the Earth Day Africa.
Sure. Yeah, thank you for the introduction, and it's a pleasure to be connected with everyone today. Before I begin, are people able to see their screens? I'm wondering if I could share my screen real quick and show a quick video. I guess you can maybe write in the comments. I don't know if people are calling from their phones, but I would like to show a video before we begin. And you can unmute your mic real quickly too and just say yes or no. Is that a yes, no, yes? Okay. So I'm going to show a quick video that we posted today before I begin. So let me just quickly share my screen. 1 second. Okay. Okay. I believe I'm presenting now. So let me just, so I have our Earth Day Africa Twitter page open, and we created this video with 9 of our staff members and some of our social media influencers. And this is sort of our call to action for Earth Day Africa Digital. So let me just get the volume up and just enjoy this about a minute clip.
Nchini Tanzania, fukwe zetu zimejaa takataka. In Uganda, we are suffering with droughts, and these are threatening the availability of food for the people. Senegal, vitu vingi sana. Kenya, cheating rates have destroyed our crops. de la Terre, j'aimerais demander à tous les jeunes du Sénégal, à tous les jeunes de l'Afrique de se lever pour la paix. Levons-nous pour notre très chère mère Terre. In Africa, we are right. In Africa, we are right. In Africa, we are right. In Africa, that's right.
Okay, thank you for watching that. Sorry, there's a if you can look at my screen, there's a little bit of an issue. There's something that just won't go away today. But yeah, let me just unshare my screen and show you guys my face. 1 second here. And for those of you that were not able to see the video, sorry about that. Let me unshare my screen. 1 sec. Okay, so thanks for having me, everybody. So to reintroduce myself, my name is Matt Lefler, and I am the Earth Day coordinator for our regional campaign in Sub-Saharan Africa. So before I joined Earth Day Network, I actually was living in West Africa in the Gambia in a rural community in the upcountry where I was a teacher, and I also worked with local youths and waste management entrepreneurs to educate people about the environment and to also start some environmentally friendly businesses like waste collection. During my time in the Gambia, I worked with a few of my colleagues that were teachers at my school and some local youths, and we had the idea to use Earth Day as a way to educate people about local environmental issues and to form a nationwide network. So in 2018, we held sort of a multi-day Earth Day campaign that focused on waste management, where we brought in, local stakeholders, nonprofits, NGOs, the National Environmental Agency of the Gambia, as well as women from local communities that were gardeners and mothers. We brought students in to teach people about waste management, plastic pollution, and sort of local things that can be done at schools and communities to sort of combat waste. And we also did a cleanup in our community. And this sort of led to a movement that happened. We have this massive Facebook page in the Gambia called Earth Day the Gambia, and all these nonprofits are all these nonprofits and different leaders are working together to continue the mission of Earth Day. And that's sort of my background, sort of how I got this, this role and why I'm continuing to do the Earth Day work that I do now. So at Earth Day Network, I'm joined today with my colleague, Nyawira Gitaka, who is our coordinator in Kenya. And Earth Day Network is a nonprofit with the mission to build the world's largest environmental movement to drive transformative change. And we do this by using Earth Day, which is April 22nd of every year. Our work is global as well, though, our headquarters are in Washington, D.C. We have staff all over the world. We have coordinators on every continent. And, our partners, ranging from everyday volunteers to nonprofits to, universities, like the Wangari Maathai Institute. These are the groups that we try to work with. So today, what I want to talk about is Earth Day and, how it ties in with civic service and citizen involvement. It's sort of at the heart of the campaign that we're running in Africa. This is a grassroots citizen-based campaign that's being run by everyday people, by students, by the young, the old, the rich, the poor, and people on different spectrums politically as well. So I'm going to start by talking about the history of Earth Day and why it's so important. So, Earth Day now is the largest civic holiday in the world. So it's celebrated by over 1 billion people every year. And I think it's a great example of, how to get involved in your community if you care about the environment. And obviously, everyone on the phone today is doing something in terms of the environment. So, so Earth Day started on April 22nd of 1970. It first started in the United States. Now it's global, but let me just backtrack here. So in the 70s, not only in the United States, but around the world, we saw a lot of environmental issues that were starting to become really pressing, on both humans, the environment, and animals. We saw massive consumption of gas and oil, with planes and large barges and automobiles. Industry and factories, they were polluting with no regulations whatsoever. Smoke was just spewing out, and a lot of runoff from this industry was going into natural lands and waters. We saw oil spills. There was loss of large pieces of wilderness as well, and you saw a lot of toxic runoff from agriculture and industry. So people really wanted change here. And these are people that are coming from different backgrounds. It was the young, the old. It was professional students. As I said before, different sides of the political spectrum, the rich and the poor, farmers, or people that lived in cities. They wanted change. They saw their environment, being destroyed. So, what people did was they came together and they gathered in the streets, in parks, in city centers, in schools and universities in order to demonstrate for a healthy and a sustainable environment. And, a lot of this was led by universities, not just the students, but the faculties, the partners, and the people in the community. In the first Earth Day, nearly 20 million Americans participated. That's 10% of the population. And what I think is really special is that this event right now, or this discussion, is being hosted by a university, and I think this is sort of the heart of what Earth Day is that it's something that's sort of led by people that are trying to think a different way, and I think engaging students and members of different universities is so important. So I'm really, really excited that this conversation is going on. So now, Earth Day is global. It's celebrated in nearly every country in the world by 1 billion people. And, just looking back at the first Earth Day, this was all civic engagement. It was people, that were just having discussions like we're having today, in a classroom setting. And I think that's so special. And, as the coordinator for, Earth Day Network in Africa, I work hand in hand with 9 other staff members, as well as, lead volunteers and partners, and so on. And we're trying to make Earth Day, a thing in Africa. And we really think that the 50th anniversary is such a great platform to do that. And really the way we're doing it is through, the everyday citizen. So, sort of the way our campaign has been structured is this, this whole Earth Day Africa, campaign that Earth Day Network has been running started in September, though I know that Earth Day, has been celebrated, in different countries and regions of the continent for years before. But I think now we're trying to make this more of a unified and coordinated effort rather than everyone kind of doing their own thing. We want to find ways to make this a network, and that's why we call ourselves Earth Day Network. So, we have our 9 staff members, and sort of what we've been doing as a team is, we've been recruiting thousands of volunteers, and these can be people that, are members of universities, they could be leaders of nonprofits, they could just be students, they could be business owners, anybody. And we've been finding ways to recruit them, to teach them about, what is Earth Day, why it's so important, and what can you do. We've also built hundreds of partnerships with universities, with nonprofits, with government entities, with small businesses, and so on. And sort of our goal here is to give people ideas of things they can do before, during, and after Earth Day, and also to bring people together like we're doing on this phone call right now. So, our main goal here, is to use Earth Day as a platform to bring people together to and to showcase their work and to inspire change. So sort of the campaigns that, my colleagues, and volunteers have, all of us have been working together as a team. I would say there's no one leader. This is just all of us working together. We've been trying to find ways to focus on different campaigns. So the campaigns that have been organized prior to the COVID-19 pandemic currently going on, but I think it's still going to continue once things settle down. I'm very confident that they will. We've been working on cleanups and plastic pollution. So getting people to organize cleanups in their community, or doing environmental education about cleanups. There's also a campaign focused on environmental education and teach-ins. So finding ways to engage students and faculty members and teachers, and finding creative ways for them to get students and community members in a classroom together to learn about local environmental issues and have active discussions about what they can do positively in their community. We also have a university-focused campaign called Mobilize You, where we're trying to bring environmental clubs, faculty, staff, and students together to do things on campus, like holding rallies or meetings in auditoriums, and so on, sort of like what we're doing today. Another aspect of the work we're trying to do is a citizen science campaign where we have a mobile application called Earth Challenge. If you go to our website, you can actually download it. And it allows the everyday citizen to use their mobile phone and to collect data about, either air quality or plastic pollution in their area. It allows them to go outside, answer questions, take photos of certain things, and sort of become their, a local scientist almost. And we're trying to get as much people to use it in order to aggregate all the data and hopefully, lead to some good data that can actually be used by scientists. We've been promoting tree planting, and the importance, of trees and starting nurseries. Food security is another campaign that a lot of our staff members and volunteers have been focusing on, finding ways to eat more sustainably as well. Also we have our faith campaign, finding ways to engage members of the community that are influential, and finding the bridge between faith and the environment. Then lastly, I heard someone mention this today, was art. Art is such a powerful way to engage different members of the community to showcase messages about why the environment is important. And that's something that we've been doing, is trying to find ways to engage artists and seeing if they could use song or sculptures or paintings in order to teach people about the environment and why it's important, or to celebrate it as well. So right now we're currently facing two crises. There's this sort of global pandemic of COVID-19, where there's a lot of uncertainty, where people are social distancing and encouraged to stay inside, and then we also have the slowly building disaster of the environment. And I really do think that these two go hand in hand, and I think that we have a really unique opportunity on April 22nd of this year for those that are on, could you mute your mic, please? I just want to make sure. There we go. Yeah. And I really think that these go hand in hand, and we can find a way to be creative, and do things at the individual level, at the household level, or digitally, as we're doing today, in order to celebrate Earth Day. So right now, we, in the past month, we have totally changed our action plan, and everything has been moved digital. So what we've been doing is, finding ways to use digital mobilization as a way to drive action that is either big or small. It can give any citizen a voice and a platform in order to demand action for what's going on in the environment right now. So the way we're doing this is we're finding ways to showcase what people have already done and what they're currently doing on social media. We have a really active Twitter page. I think our main Twitter account has over 100,000 followers. Our Earth Day Africa account is brand new, but that's something that we have used. It doesn't have as much followers, it has a couple hundred right now, but we're using it as a way to showcase what people are doing in Africa for Earth Day. And this can be people, posting pictures of what they're doing, or things they've done in the past, or if they've created a poster or a slogan or a video where they talk about, why it's important to care for Earth, or why human health is so critical right now. So, other than that, we're encouraging people to do things like we're doing now, and that is staying active in their networks. Having discussions on WhatsApp, and forming your own, sort of Earth Day planning committee, on WhatsApp. We're able to share ideas, resources, and you can make plans to mobilize at home. Other than that, we encourage people to do things at home as well. You could start a nursery and collect seeds in your household. You could paint a mural, like on your compound wall, that has a positive environmental message. You could sit down with your brothers or sisters or people that live in your house, and talk about, why sanitation is so important, why washing your hands is important right now, and how it ties to waste management in the environment. You could do a cleanup, or create waste bins in your house. And we encourage people to share what they're doing on social media or on WhatsApp, Facebook, whatever really. And then I think, lastly, our big thing is, hosting digital events. And this is the perfect example, is using things like Twitter or Facebook, Zoom, or this Google Meet app in order to bring people into a common space that we can't meet face to face. We have discussions like this, and we figured, hey, what can we do? And I think just doing this is so positive, because it gets you in a good headspace and allows you to talk about something that you're passionate about. So on April 22nd, the day of Earth Day, what our organization is doing is we're doing a live stream on our website, which is earthday.org, where we are we're showcasing, a lot of the efforts that our partners globally are doing. We actually have an hour that is designated to Africa. So we're going to be, working with our partners to find ways to showcase things on social media. I know we have some videos we sent out that are going to be highlighted as well. So stay tuned for that. And I hope once we have a schedule of events for Earth Day itself, it'd be great to have people to participate. But that's essentially what we're doing. And, I think this all relates back to the citizen is, you can do things on your own. And I think, our individual voices, as a whole, are very, it's very loud, and it can, and it can do a lot. If you look at the first Earth Day, it was just a bunch of individuals that came together, and now Earth Day is huge. And, I know Earth Day is something that's been celebrated in Africa before, but I think one thing my staff and I are, all trying to do is try to make it more unified and to bring people together. I think making networks is so important, and that's what we're trying to do. So I hope I didn't talk too much. I hope I hit my 15 minutes, but thank you so much for having me today, and way over. But thank you so much for having me, and I'm excited to hear from other speakers today.
Thank you, Matthew. Don't end the call, because we expect to take questions and comments at the end of maybe after Nyawira presents. Thank you very much for sharing with us. What I get from you is that what the Earth Day Network tries to do is getting everyone involved in environmental protection, that every action matters. We can liken this to the analogy by Wangari Maathai, the late professor, on the hummingbird, doing the small you can to make a difference. Because we have a lot of environmental concerns in Africa, like what you exactly did, the solid waste management aspect, while you are in West Africa. We also get that we should take advantage of technology, okay, like social media, to be able to at least share the responses that we have towards environmental protection. For example, now COVID-19 is giving us an opportunity, has presented us an opportunity to change the way we do our things. Maybe we can use social media to share responses on how we are coping with COVID-19 and how it is tied to environmental aspect, etc. Of course, sometime my network was on and off, so I didn't hear all that you presented, but I think the key highlight is that the environmental, the Earth Day network is getting people more unified and involved towards environmental protection.
Yeah.
Yeah, so now I take this opportunity and invite our third speaker, Nyawira Gitaka. Nyawira, are you here with us? Hello, Nyawira. Yes, Nyawira, you can hear me. So it's the time to make your presentation. You have 15 minutes kindly to make your presentation on the Earth Day Kenya. Hello, Nyawira. Hello, Nyawira. Nyawira, you can hear me? Okay. I think Nyawira, yes, kindly turn on your mic. I can see yes. Now you can speak. Hello, Nyawira. Okay. So I can see Nyawira is facing some technological challenges, but as we await her to reconnect or maybe solve issue from our side, maybe we can take one or two questions, and when she is ready, we can now give her time. For the interest of time, I suggest we take one or two questions or comments as we wait for Nyawira to resolve our issue. Anyone with a question, a comment to Professor Mungai and also to Matthew?
Yes.
Yes,
I have a question.
Faro.
Okay, mine is not a question, but just a comment.
Okay, Ngeno, yes, please go on.
Okay, I want to thank Matthew and Mungai and Dr. Mungai for their presentation. Actually, they have shared good messages to us and also a very good preview about the Earth Day.
Okay. Thank you for
Okay.
your comment. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm sure they've heard.
Thank
I
you.
have a question.
Yes. Geno has a compliment to Professor Mungai and Matthew for what they are doing. Yes, Shamsa, Evie?
Okay, thank you. I have a question. First, I'd start by saying thank you to Dr. Mungai and Matthew for what they've told us. But my question is regarding to those who are new to this. It's my first time to attend such a conference. So I had a question where I wanted to ask. The first one is, what can one do now that you're at home? We're on curfew and the lockdown. What can we do with the waste we have? Especially, I've had Dr. Mungai talking about the plastics and how to deal with them. So how can we use them and how can we preserve them? And also to Matthew, right now, since everyone is on lockdown, people are using social media and in the internet. How can we be able to incite more people to be able to celebrate the Earth Day and also to educate them, especially for those who are very new to all this? Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you.
I have.
Yes, Stephen.
How are you today?
I'm fine. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Professor Mungai and Mr. Matthew. I have two questions for Professor Mungai. I wanted to inquire something. Do we have a documentation which is systematically giving a presentation on the Wangari Maathai Institute advancements on environmental protection? My other question is to Mr. Matthew. What criteria do you use to admit activities that contribute towards Earth Day network? Thank you.
Hey, this is
Okay.
Matt.
Let me check if Nyawira was able to connect. Nyawira? Nyawira? Nyawira?
I think someone may have to let her into the room now. She said that she left and she's probably trying to oh, I think she's back now. Let's see.
Okay.
Maybe we can answer those questions.
Yes, we can answer those questions as we await her to resolve. So, Professor Mungai, you can go first.
Yes, there are two questions. Somebody has asked about waste management. I guess she means at home under the current conditions. The key thing about waste management is, first of all, reduction of producing waste at source. And there are many ways that you can reduce waste at source. For instance, in terms of the purchases that you do, the quantities that you do, make sure you buy just what you need, so that you don't have some items going to waste simply because you bought too much of something. But of course, that doesn't mean that you're going to have zero waste at home. A key guidance regarding waste management is, first of all, you separate the different waste streams, the different types of waste. Organic waste, that you can directly use it if you have a home garden, depending on where you are living. If you're in Nairobi, there are those little actions that you can do with whatever land area, square meters of land that you have, including house balconies. You could grow either ornamentals or in some cases even some food. That way you get rid of, you turn organic waste into something that is useful for you. Other types of waste that will not decompose quickly. Of course, under the current conditions, you have to keep it somewhere, and then you dispose it at a later time when it is possible for people to move from one point to another. But I should say that if you are living, say, in Nairobi, for instance, the waste management at the household level, even at the enterprise level is tied up with the overall city waste management. And there, I think we have a problem. It's not very efficient. The way the waste is collected is not efficient. The way waste is collected, there is very little or no segregation. So they take it and dump it somewhere, perhaps in Dandora, perhaps in some other areas. That needs to be worked on. We need to work on that, not just for Nairobi, but for all urban areas. And I'm beginning to see or to think that rural areas, we think most of the solid waste is produced in urban areas. But I think we need a kind of study to quantify the amount of solid waste that is being generated in rural areas. So you can do it for actions at your home through segregation, and that which can be, from which you can make organic manure, you can do it straight away on your own compound. Now, regarding documentation of key milestones of the Wangari Maathai Institute, it is there in various forms, in various documents that we prepare for the show, Nairobi show, for instance, and for various university needs. But I guess you are right in asking that. We should be able to compile all that and put it on our website. And we are beginning to do that. Our key successes at the Wangari Maathai Institute. Perhaps we should also be having these materials disseminated through other means like YouTube, maybe where possible television programs. Yes, so that's a very good question, and we are working on it. And I look forward to your contribution in making successes at Wangari Maathai Institute. Thank you, Jane. I think those were the two that were relevant to me.
Okay. Before maybe we take
Hello.
Yes, Nyawira.
Am I audible now?
Yes, you are.
Yes.
Welcome. Welcome. We can hear you now.
Okay. Sorry about that. I was just having a problem with one of the devices. So my name is Nyawira Gitaka, coordinator for Earth Day Network Kenya. I am going to try to be as brief and as precise as possible because I know time is far much gone. And Matt has already covered a lot of the things which are happening in Africa, which encompasses obviously what's happening in Kenya. But one of the things I wanted to really talk about, first of all, is the plans we had before the pandemic made all of our activities go virtual. So first of all, we have a platform, a Nation Builder platform, where people join and register as volunteers. And on the Kenya platform, we have a bit over 300 volunteers from all over the country. People who are saying, I'm going to be part of Earth Day, I'm going to do an activity or plan an activity within my local community, and that kind of a thing. So by the time, I think it was mid-March, we had a bit over 20 to 30 events that were registered in Kenya in different parts of the country. We had Kwale, Kisumu, Nairobi, Embu, Homa Bay, Kilifi, Nyamira, and some places had more than one event. And these were ranging from Great Global Cleanup, so beach cleanup, which was to happen in Mombasa and Kwale, as well as Homa Bay, in the island. What is the name of the beautiful island there in Homa Bay? I forget. And then we were going to have a number of teach-ins in different universities within the country, about 5 teach-ins. We were also partnering with Young Africa Leadership Initiative, which through the American spaces, which are always within universities, to host teach-ins. And these teach-ins were open to the community, so just not university students. And the idea of the teach-ins was also not to just have students from the environment department. So students from any other department come and join the teaching and learn how they can be part of the environment issues. Because as we have seen from experience, environment issues require everyone on board. If you push for environment without policymakers, without lawyers, without activists, without scientists, then it becomes a very disjointed effort. So we were also going to have the Mobilize You, which was still happening within universities. I'm sure, I know Sam was supposed to join us on the call and just talk about Mobilize You a bit, but she wasn't able to. Another campaign we had was A Billion Acts of Green. So A Billion Acts of Green is a campaign that can still happen regardless of the fact that everything has gone virtual. It's because it individualizes everyone's effort. What are you doing towards Earth, or to vote Earth, or for Earthrise? So even despite the situation you're in, or each of us is in across the world, we can decide when each of us does one small action of green, then they become a billion acts of green, which make a big difference. Whether it's choosing not to use single-use plastic, whether it's setting up a food forest or a home garden, those kind of individual efforts. And those ones were targeting people who could not even join for all the activities or had limited space and that kind of a thing. And there was also the Earth Challenge. Matt has talked about the Earth Challenge app, which you can download from our website. And it really involves citizens in everything scientific and any activities regarding the environment in a very direct way. Today's topic is about citizen science and citizen getting involved in the environment, which is actually a key backbone of Earth Day, and which is very critical in Kenya, because Kenyans have really taken up the initiative of taking care of the environment, whether it's through their rural communities, whether it's youth groups, whether it's organizations, CBOs, like they're very, very proactive about this. Even when we talk about the plastic ban, the push came from individuals, came from young people and pushing this effort. We had also reached out to faith-based organizations. So we actually had a church or churches within the community that were to come together and do a cleanup and do a teach-in. Because actually, for me, it was a very interesting campaign because I had not seen faith-based organizations being involved in Kenya, and they were very receptive to it. Because actually sometimes when people do environment activities, they don't involve faith-based organizations, yet environment activities are very faith-like activities, so to speak, when you talk about the environment and spirituality and all that. So we had reached out to faith organizations within Kiambu and Nairobi. Those are the ones we had reached out to at that time. We also had an Artist for Earth event. So there is an individual, his name is Francis from Kisumu County. He's a very, very amazing young guy. He uses eco-plays and skits to educate his rural community about environmental issues. So they actually just go around the community acting and doing skits, but each play has a very, very relatable environment issue that is discussing, very relatable to the local community. And actually children are involved. He also uses a lot of children games and that kind of a thing to educate about the environment, which I found to be very interesting. And I know the Wangari Maathai Institute has a peace park where artists are invited to kind of do that thing and showcase the different talents and different ways to communicate about the environment. We also had an individual from Embu. His name is Paulino. Paulino is doing some really amazing work rehabilitating Mount Kenya forest. He works with the rural communities, specifically mainly women. And so far his organization, Mount Kenya Conservation, has planted over 350,000 trees within the forest in terms of rehabilitation, which I found to be very impressive. So the thing is that we were to have something specific in Embu. So one of the things that I failed to mention in the beginning is that in Kenya, and I think even in the other countries, we were not approaching this like having a blanket solution to one country. So each campaign was tailor-made to the region, to the rural community, to the society around there. So if we go to Kwale, what is the main issue in Kwale? Which campaign is relevant to them? And the partner, the local partner there, is the individual or the organization that was to champion the activity to be carried out. Because the thing is that different parts of the country have different environmental issues, have different priorities, and that kind of a thing. So the other thing was that we actually were working with some ladies who are awardees of the Wangari Maathai Foundation grants, Yunelka and Elizabeth, who are part of actually our volunteers. And Yunelka is in Nyawira, and she's running a program there with the rural communities. And we were planning a teaching. We were working with, for her, we were to work with the schools she works in, because she does a lot of work within schools. And apart from that, we're also organizing an event in Nairobi with one of our partners, Earth Optimism and National Museums of Kenya. And I can see Anthony Kuria is in the meeting. So Earth Optimism's concept was very interesting because it comes from the fact that most of the time when we listen to environmental stories, issues, statistics, they're always so grim, but there's so many positive stories to share out there, and hence Earth Optimism. So we were actually supposed to have a session, a conference, one-day session at the National Museums of Kenya, inviting different people, students, youth in the environment, scientists, all to present their successes and the gains they have made in the field of environment, despite everything that is happening. So that was to be one of the main platforms to have people from different environmental departments or environment areas or environmental interests rather, to come and network and share about their stories, including artists. We're also going to have artists in the same event. And I can also see John Henry here, who is also one of our partners with Nazarene University, where they always have the Green Week. And yeah, one of the other things that can still happen or is still happening is that there are a lot of people who are supposed to meet and watch documentaries about the environment and Earth, and have a discussion session about after that. So Earth Day Network, I think they're still on the website, had a list of all these amazing documentaries and movies and that kind of a thing, with critical information about the environment and that kind of a thing, where people can watch and come together. So that was before this happened. So now that everything is going virtual, we still have people who are using social media to communicate about Earth Day. So apart from the webinars we're having, we also have another webinar that has been organized by individuals from Nairobi National Park, that I'll be sharing the information about that so that we can join in and learn more about that. We also have our school that is going to be doing on Earth Day. They're going to have a whole day where students, their middle school actually, is going to have a whole series of challenges and students teaching each other about environment issues and why they're important. And we also have another lady who is going to be using her Instagram profile platform. She's going to be going live on Instagram on Earth Day to just teach her fellow youth and her peers about the environment and what she's doing about it. We also have one of our partners, Meteor Alliance, who had a tweet chat and was talking about home gardens. And just because we're all home and that kind of a thing doesn't mean we can't do something for the environment. So he was talking about having home gardens and food forests and that kind of a thing. Any small effort collectively can be a very big thing. And I think that is all I have to say for now.
Thank you very much, Nyawira. I'm sorry you couldn't see Nyawira. Some are asking whether it is, they can't see you live as we saw Professor Mungai. and Matthew, it is not deliberate. What is important is the voice, the audio, the conversation, because maybe if you put on the video, the connectivity may be poor. So what I get from Nyawira is that networking, volunteerism, collaboration, and inclusivity is very important into moving forward with aspects of environmental protection. And in her talk, you heard all about that, particularly when she says so many people had registered as volunteers for the activities that were scheduled, that were to be cleanups, teaching, that is education from all departments. And importantly, when we say about inclusivity, we ought also to bring some core sectors in environmental protection, like we ought to have a little of political will, okay, and also bring some faith-based organization, because our spiritual well-being is directly tied to the environment. She talked about the Earth Challenge, which involves all citizens in all activities. So I think with the Earth Day Kenya and also Africa, I don't see a reason why anyone should say they are not advocating or they are not getting actively involved in environmental matters, because we have so many platforms, like a billion acts of green, a billion acts of green, where all of us can do something as individuals to be able to at least speak for the environment, protect the environment. So let me open up now the forum for the participants to ask questions and also give comments. But before we give more, we give the floor to questions and comments, I will allow Matthew to respond to two of his questions that were posed by Ivy and also Stephen.
Yeah, sure. I think the question that I could answer the best is, what can you do to get involved now that, things have obviously changed and, social isolating or social distancing, is now a thing. And then also trying to get other people involved as well that may not be familiar with Earth Day. So in the group chat, I sent two links. The first is a link that says Africa Earth Day Digital Toolkit. So I would really encourage people who are trying to get involved to download this PDF. It has a lot of links built inside of it, and it sort of gives a basic call to action for, what's going on currently, why Earth Day is important for the 50th anniversary, and it gives you sort of a step-by-step process of what you can do to get involved. And this is just from our perspective at Earth Day Network. You can really be creative, but I think I mentioned this in my presentation, but it gives you ideas for things you can do at home with your, with your family or your siblings, or ways to stay connected with your friends, on WhatsApp or Facebook or Twitter, and doing challenges on social media. Like, for example, we're doing something where we're using the hashtag Earth Day Africa as a way for people to stay involved in conversations on Twitter and Facebook, and they can post photos of things they've done in the past. They can take a picture of them holding a sign that has a message about why it's important to stay at home, or why climate change is an issue in their particular region. So I would really encourage people to download that toolkit. I also have a link underneath. This takes you to our website under our Take Action page, and this gives you an idea of what volunteers around the world are doing globally for Earth Day. And it allows you to sort of, learn about things like, like hosting a teach-in or downloading that application that, Wida was talking about, Earth Challenge. So I'd really encourage you to look at those links and explore, and really kind of take the big picture items and see how it can relate back to, maybe things that you're doing in your community or your household. But, I think the main thing is, finding ways to do things virtually like we're doing now, and so on. So as far as the waste management aspect, I don't feel I'm in a position to give advice on that, since I'm not a waste management expert. I have done work with that in the past. The only thing I could say is, just find ways to reduce the amount of plastic you're using, and then find ways to recycle it. That's the only thing I could say. But I'm not here to tell people how to consume and so on. But that's just the one bit of advice I would have is reduce, reuse, and recycle.
Wow, thank you, Matthew. So I'll take more questions and comments. The floor is open. Yes, Joram, Daktari.
Yeah, thank you, Jane. And I've been following the conversation, and I'm happy that it's going on very well.
Yes.
And I'd like, first of all, to mention about the issue of packaging information, because there's a lot of information in various registration, various policies. And if we want to talk of citizens' action, we need to think of how we can package this information such that more and more people can know what the various legislation, various laws say about the issues of environment. And I think this is where Professor Mungai comes in, and issue also passing this information also to county government, because county government has a big role in issues of environment, because most of the environment issues are devolved, and we need to see how we can involve the county government. Also, there is also need for coordinated approach, because so many people are doing one thing or the other, but the issue of coordination is lacking, and that's where we need to think of how we can do more coordination. I'd like to see the issue of environment. If you compare it with the issue of COVID-19, there was a lot of publicity. Nowadays, you go to the radio, everybody is talking about the corona, and to a point that everybody knows about it. But the issues on environment, sometimes we lose out because we don't give them enough space. Sometimes we don't have even resources, maybe to go to the radio and even TV to talk about the environment. And you see, when the environment ends up being destroyed, we lose out, all of us. Finally, I would like to see from Nyawira and Matthew how they are using faith-based organizations, churches, mosques, and temples in issues of environment, because I think they are also core in issues of citizen coalition, and also using youth and children, the schools. And now, do you have the curriculum which we have? Are we talking of somewhere about the issue of environment, such that the young children can be molded when they are still young? Otherwise, I'm happy that we are doing very well. I work with the Kenya Forest Research Institute as a scientist. Thank you.
Thank you, Daktari. Thank you. I hope the speakers have noted their questions. If not, I'm still taking some notes. So we can still take more questions, comments.
Could I put one across?
Yes, Daktari. Yes, Dr. Kenya.
Yeah, thank you very much. And it's good to note that Kagombe is the former immediate chairman of the Forest Society of Kenya. He was quite active. Now, my question goes to Matthew and maybe partly to Nyawira, is that, environmental movements have had very high peaks and very low peaks in Africa. And they often tend to be very occasional, and they quickly disappear once the issue has been resolved. But when I read about environmental movements in America, they have remained on a high crescendo. They've been rising and maintained a very high peak all the way from the 1920s. What are some of the lessons that maybe we could pick so that we can also be able to maintain a high peak throughout, even when there are not major issues happening in the environment? And then the second question is that what role has the green politics played in terms of maintaining environmental movement active? And the last one maybe is a challenge to all of us to see how we can be able to capitalize on the social media as we stay in the house. Many people of us are on Facebook, Twitter, and what plans do we have to carry the environmental message on those social medias come the day of 22nd, when all of us will be very much active on the online. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Daktari. I hope the speakers have noted the questions. Yes. Anyone else? Degwa, Francis, you have a question or comment? No. Maybe we can respond, the speakers can respond to those. We start with Professor Mungai.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much. I think the question that Dr. Kagombe has raised is very important. And before I go into it, packaging of information and coordination, I think it is true, each one of us, we are all in it together. But I think it would be very good. I asked myself, how can academia work together with groups like, ADBE, Africa, ADBE, global. I think there are some synergies that we need to exploit, and that is on knowledge. That is on scientific, information. I guess that is happening, but it's very, very important also that we get some input from academia or researchers of science, so that I remember, for instance, in Japan, in the early 50s, late 60s, ordinary women in the southernmost part of Japan, because of the air pollution, because of the soil and water pollution, because of industrial, they went to the University of Kitakyushu and talked to professors who went and took samples, did the measurements, and were able to link the health problems with the industrial pollution. I'm not saying that we cannot take individual actions or the kind of activities that were outlined by both Nyawira and Matthew. No, we don't stop, we proceed, but there should be that active collaboration between citizen scientists. They are citizen scientists in their own right, but also with research out of universities and other research institutions. And in fact, we would be very happy to receive issues. Yeah, there is this issue: what evidence, what methods and good scientific methods can we use? The other point I think I would want to raise is that, and I think Denya has, in a way, is mentioning this. I think there should also be a way of measuring the impact of our individual and collective actions, and that the universities could be useful in that respect. Because if, like in Kenya, Nyawira, if we look at the activities for this year, the activities for next year, there must be a way we can try to see what problem are we addressing, what impact do we expect, and after some time, did we achieve that impact and how much? So that if there is need to go back to those places, if the impact was not large enough, I think that would be a good thing. Coordination, follow-up, and a little bit of assessment of the impact of our actions. Now, Dr. Kagombe, I fully agree regarding your comments on coordination of various levels. It's critically important, and one of the things that we have planned to do at Wangari Maathai Institute is to get in touch with the various counties. We have already begun with the Kiambu County. We have also had some contacts with the Tharaka County, but I think we need more, especially on environmental issues, solid waste management, other forms of pollution, other environmental issues. I fully agree with you, and we are more than willing to take up that role. The packaging is critical, and we are going to look at the various legislations. For instance, if it is with respect to waste management, we would like to look at it in terms and then see how we package the messages. something like policy briefs or something like that. We will take up this, Dr. Kagombe. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you, Prof. Matthew?
Yeah. So the question you had about social media, I think that's where I can, answer it best. I think, things on the ground in terms of unified approach, it's going to be easier to handle, with your colleagues and partners on the ground. So I think you have a good group of people on this phone today, with all the, all the community members at the Wangari Maathai Institute and Nyawira, so everyone on the phone call today, it seems like you guys, can all work together. But in terms of social media, I do think that is very important, and trying to, trying to find ways to, spread unified messages on social media is going to be so important, from now until Earth Day, but also after Earth Day too. One thing I do want to say is that, it's not a day, it's a movement. We're trying to, get these messages, just always circulating on social media, and when the 51st anniversaries come, we'll be doing the same thing again. So, but, if you give, one thing that we've done, at least on our Earth Day Africa page, so if you go to Twitter, Earth Day Africa 1, if you look us up, we've been using our Twitter not necessarily as a way to, post articles or, or things to promote our organization. What we've been doing is sending photos and videos of, of what people are doing, or maybe what they have done. So I think I said before, like, if somebody has made a sign, in their house encouraging people to celebrate Earth Day, or if they're, or if they did like a tree planting exercise, they can showcase it on Twitter. And what we try to do is we try to use our Twitter as a way to show what people are doing in order to, almost reward them, but also as a way to encourage others as well and sort of gain that momentum. So we try to use similar hashtags, like I said before, Earth Day Africa. We have something called, Earthrise. If you look at other hashtags like Save Congo Forest, or Save Congo Rainforest is really big. And, we're trying to use social media as a way to, just get people involved in similar discussions and show what people are doing. And then also, like if there's a webinar coming up, we'll try to make posts about that and repost it. So I think that is something that is really vital when you're, when you're trying to post things on social media. That toolkit that I sent out before, if you download it and explore it, there's a whole page on how to get active on social media and some of the challenges we currently have. So that's sort of my suggestion. So just give us a follow at Earth Day Africa 1. I'm not doing this just to get more followers. I just want to show you, it's a good place to explore and to look at the different hashtags and get examples of good ways to post on social media. And then come Earth Day, I think there's, social media is going to be huge that day. And that's going to be a great way for people to start posting things and starting conversations. And, I think if you follow the posts where people are tagging us, or if you follow the hashtags that you see people are posting on our pages, that's a great way to start. So that's my take on it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Matthew, for the responses. Nyawira, you are there. Nyawira?
Hello, hi, you can hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. So I know Matt has covered a bit of the use of social media, but in addition to what he said, apart from just plugging into the conversations, everyone can also share their own environmental knowledge, expertise on the same platforms. Because the thing is that And this goes back to what Prof is asking about environmental movements in Africa having peaks and lows, only taking taking form in moments of crisis and then dissipating and that kind of a thing. And I think one of the main things also, sometimes in the environmental space, there's a huge disconnect between different groups of people. So the scientists are doing their thing, the corporates are doing their thing, and individuals are doing their own thing. Sometimes instead of having a unified voice and agenda, that kind of a thing, which I think in most cases should be set by the scientists because they know the issues that we're facing, and then bringing everyone else on board. Because if agendas are set from a reactive point of view, then they're not sustainable, right? Because they're only informed by what is happening here and now rather than long-term view of issues, right? So that is my thoughts on that. And I think the other thing is that at least I think now, I think part of the curriculum is doing environmental stances in schools and in children, because you cannot take one through a whole education system and then suddenly when they're adults, you expect them to care about the environment. It has to start from somewhere. It has to start from the very beginning. So I think that's also a major way how we can create sustainable movements in future. So even, I think that's it. So social media, I think there's a great need for more professionals, more scientists to put in their voices and their knowledge in such platforms, in such conversations, plugging in such conversations. So as much as we're joining and celebrating Earth Day, what do you have to say about Earth Day from your experience? When, like, even what Prof is saying about environmental movement in Africa, I think that's something so key and critical that can be a whole conversation point across the continent and that kind of a thing.
Thank you, Nyawira. Yes, I agree with you, particularly the aspect of environmental movement. There's a disconnect mostly between the scientists and the policymakers. The scientists have their findings, so most of the time they are swept under the carpet, and the policymakers, sometimes they make policies not from an informed point of view, and they always see maybe scientists to be so theoretical. So I think what you are proposing is that in order to sustain the environmental movement and for them to reduce maybe the extent of victimization, humiliation, there needs to be an increased there need to be an increased dialogue between scientists and the policymakers, particularly through policies and policy briefs and all that, including policy dialogue platforms. And maybe now that takes us back to what Dr. Kagombe was saying, the way we package our information so that we are better able to communicate it back as scientists in a way that the policy makers and maybe even the grassroots community and other stakeholders can assimilate and make use of it. Yeah, that is what I get from you. We have a comment from Francis. Is it Francis? Or let me try to, yeah. Oh, did I miss it? One, Mary Akinyi is suggesting that WMI to partner with government on issues of land use and management in order to secure our environment. And John Henry is saying most of the time environmentalists are tagged as anti-developers. Maybe, Nyawira, that is your question. Yet, we are aiming at sustainability. How do we demystify this? Nyawira, you could respond to
Hello.
that.
Hello.
Yes, Nyawira, you can hear me.
Okay. Oh, perfect. I can hear you. So yeah, I've seen what John Henry is saying,
yes,
and that
kindly.
is and that is very true. Most of the time, environmentalists are seen as anti-developers. But I think the first question is, how do you communicate sustainability? Because what does sustainability mean? To different communities, it means different things, right? I think
Yes.
one of the major issues, and it goes back to one of the major issues, is how we communicate environmental issues. Are we really getting to the hearts of the people? And the other thing is that it goes back to where we, and this happens in Kenya and I think even different parts of Africa, where people come to a community to provide solutions of what should be happening. Okay? Instead of inviting dialogue, yes, and understanding, is my environmental idea actually helpful to the community, or is it actually hurting the community? You understand? And I think that is usually the main issue. It's not that people are not receptive to the ideas or don't want a sustainable environment, but it's just that the ideas are presented in a way that is so combative. Yeah, I mean, we exist in a community that thinks environmental issues cannot exist with agriculture. One is seen to exist at the expense of the other, right? And it goes with development. One is seen to exist at the expense of the other, and it usually boils down to communication. Who is invited in the dialogue space, and do we create an environment to have these conversations about what should happen, or do we create environments that we cannot have conversations?
Okay.
Yes, especially within local communities.
Okay. I think if participants agree, if there are no more questions and comments, we need to bring this to a close. Unless there is any burning question. Okay. We are following the charts. I hope you can all follow the charts, that we can explore more social media like Twitter, WhatsApp. And someone says webinar is a great idea. We should have more of this. Kagombe says we need to do more on creating awareness of the total value of ecosystem if values are considered from an extractive use. That is true. So as a follow-up of what Nyawira has done, we also need to take into consideration the cost and benefit. I think if you agree, we need to bring this webinar to a closure. Maybe the Wangari Maathai Institute could consider organizing for more webinars where the participants and more others could interact. Matthew says, if interested, please follow this link for the Africa Day Digital Toolkit. You can check your chat and you'll be able to see the link there, inviting you to participate on the digital toolkit. So on behalf of the Wangari Maathai Institute, I take this opportunity to appreciate all of you for participating in today's webinar. I want to applaud our speakers. They have done excellently well. They have given us a diverse perspective on how we can be able to get involved as citizens in environmental protection, right from tertiary training to the activities that have been accomplished by the Earth Day Africa, and also to learn that there's a lot that is being done in Kenya through the Earth Day Kenya. Thank you so much, Nyawira and Matthew, for collaborating all these activities on environmental protection. And for me, it was new to me, and I think I'll make an effort to join the Earth Day network so that in a small way I can also make my contribution. Thank you to all of you that participated, whether you are environmentalists or not. We've heard that all these aspects require a concerted effort from politicians, faith-based organizations, schools, children, youth, environmentalists, leaders, etc. So let us join hands. On 22nd April, let us go online and see what will be happening there on the Earth Day network, and in our own special way be able to contribute, including the links that Matthew has shared. As regards the COVID-19, let us be innovative in the way we do our things, keep washing hands, keeping that social distance, and importantly, the way you dispose your mask, your other surgical materials, so that we may reduce the waste that goes to the environment. And let us be an agent of change wherever we are, and keep safe, stay safe. So thank you very much. See you another day. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much, Jane. Kudos.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye. Thank you, Nyawira. Bye-bye, Matthew. Keep safe.
Thank you all.